We begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and that is with Allah's signature, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We give all praises to Allah, who is deserving of all praises, and we begin with his signature. I like to translate that word ism as signature. And if you look at the English word signature, it is simply the words signs in nature. So Allah's signature is how he signs off on his will and his purpose, but he does it through nature. And our observation of nature is what allows us to read Allah's signature. So what is his signature as far as this Basmala statement is concerned? His signature is to be found in everything that provides merciful benefits and also everything that provides merciful redemption. So wherever you see those things, wherever you see those qualities in people, understand that Allah is speaking to you and he is signing off on those behaviors in you, because those behaviors are Allah's signature in you. When you see that kind of activity in you, around you, and your family members, when you see that kind of behavior in your relationship with your neighbors and the businesses in your area, and you develop that kind of beneficial mercy that people pretty much look forward to, especially the have-nots. When you develop that and when you save people even from themselves, as Allah asks us to do in the Quran, to save yourselves and your families from the fire whose fuel is men and stone. So that's what we are supposed to be about, the business of doing. As Muslims, true humans, that's what we're supposed to be about, the business of doing. And I would venture to say that all people who claim a faith-based belief system, that is their objective also. So I'm going to begin by pulling up my notes on today's lecture, and inshallah, all of you will be very, very patient with us. For some reason, my camera for the live Facebook session is in and out. So we just let that be what it is and understand that it will be a replay that will be made available to you in one way or another. It's being recorded twice and thrice, actually, because I also have an audio recording going. So 3 times a lady, right? That should do it. All right. So let me pull up my notes. And hopefully all of you in the Facebook Live audience can see those notes. Those who are in my regular Zoom audience, you won't be able to see the notes, so pay very careful attention to the words. Okay, I'm only able to show the notes on the Masjidullah Facebook Live screen. So again, the title of this 8-part series is Understanding Differences. And I greet you all first with the greetings of peace, progress, and wholeness. Salam alaikum. And I intentionally say salam alaikum as opposed to the standardized way of saying it, that is assalam alaikum, because assalam is actually an attribute of Allah that is not to be used alongside humans. Assalam means the source of all peace and wholeness, and we are not that. And we cannot wish that upon another human being. It would crush them. We can't wish the peace that Allah reserves for himself. We can't wish that upon other human beings. So in the Quran, you don't find that greeting being given from human to human. You find salam alaikum or salamun alaikum, but you don't find that word salam being given with a definite article. Once it's given a definite article, it belongs solely to Allah, just like ar-Rahman. But you would never, ever say to another human being, ar-Rahman alaikum. May the power and the might of the most merciful benefactor be upon your little back. We would never do that. So Allah never encourages us to do that in the Quran. He merely asks us to give a generic peace because he wants it to be the kind of peace that is found everywhere you go. That's what generic means. See, that's what the tanween ending, salamun, that's what that UN sound means. It means that it is not a specific peace, but it is a peace that can be recognized pretty much everywhere you go. And everywhere you go, you're to take the idea of peace and spread that peace, advocate for that peace, institute that peace. That's what salamun means. Just like kitabun means any book, salamun means any peace. So choose your peace and bring that peace so that we can put this puzzle together. They're nothing but puzzle pieces. That's all human beings are. And if you're patient with each other, if you're merciful with each other, if you're loving and kind towards each other, then the peace that Allah is advocating for the human being will be realized in your lifetime and in my lifetime. And that's what we're looking forward to. We also have the popularized mantra, if you will. When we greet each other during Ramadan, sometimes we substitute the phrase Ramadan Mubarak for Salam Alaikum, and that's not to be done. You're not supposed to do that. Ramadan Mubarak is not in the Quran. It's not that it's a bad thing to say. It's just that it's not something that Allah advocates for us to say. Allah advocates for us to say Salamun Alaikum, and that's throughout the Quran. That particular greeting, it's also the greetings of paradise. Hey, let that roll off of your lips with that understanding that Salam Alaikum will also be the greetings of paradise, but there won't be any Ramadan Mubarak greetings in paradise because there won't be any Ramadan as such. There will be plenty for you to indulge in to your heart's delight as long as you come there with the right intentions. So Ramadan Mubarak is for us earthlings. We invented that saying. And again, there's nothing wrong with the saying when you understand how Mubarak is used in the Quran. It's never used with Ramadan. Ramadan is only mentioned once in the Quran, in Surah 2. But Mubarak is mentioned in many places in reference to the ancient city of Mecca, and it's mentioned in other places, and it holds a lot of weight. The MU, as you can see on my sheet, that stands for one who does something or one who is something. So what we're wishing is Mubarak. We're wishing upon that person what is called a barakah or barakat, which is normally translated as blessings. But as you see here, barakat are not just blessings as we think about blessings from the way that we might have learned it in the Christian church or the way that we might have heard it used amongst our parents as we were growing up. And in fact, sometimes blessing can have a very negative meaning. You know, my mother used to talk about blessing people out that she didn't like. And we know that that blessing is cursing. So bless has a two-edged sword attached to it. So you got to be careful of the way you use it. Whereas barakat, it doesn't have that two-edged sword. It has a very soft tip and it doesn't poke and jab you and make you do things. Blessing encourages you to want to do for others as others are doing for you. So barakat means blessings that carry over into other territories. So if you're providing a barakat for somebody, understand that that barakat is with you, and now you are taking on the responsibility of taking that barakat and moving it into another person's territory. So you had it, it was filling your space, so to speak, but when you carry it over and you give it to someone else, now that same blessing is taken from you, from your pocket, from your bank, from your words of wisdom or whatever, and you're giving it to someone else. That's a barakat. You're giving it to someone who did not have it, might have been deprived of it. You look for what it is they need is the point, and then you provide that need. When you fill their space with what was formerly occupying your space, that's when it can be considered, according to the Quran, a barakat, a carry over of a blessing. The carrying over, and in fact, any word in the English language or in the Arabic language where you see the letters BR together in that order, it represents carrying something from one space in order to fill another space. In English, we talk about the word bridge, BR. What do you do on a bridge? If you're driving, you're at the end or the beginning of a bridge, you're taking your car and your passengers over the bridge, you're carrying them over to the other side of the bridge where you were not just a minute ago. You weren't there. It was empty of your presence, of your presence and your presents. It was absent of both. But now that you're on the other side of the bridge, oh man, look at all of the presence and the presents that you're providing for people who didn't have it on the other side of the bridge. They have your company now. They have your business. You go spend your money in those stores now when you're on vacation. You've carried over something that those people need that you had. And that's why whenever you spend And whenever you assist people, and even whenever you do what we're doing right now, and that is teaching the public, we're providing barakat for people because we're carrying over what we have out of our space and we're filling up. We're filling up the space of other people who were deprived or who were simply without. So what does this word Mubarak mean in terms of the actual letters that are being used? And we'll talk about the importance of understanding Arabic letters in just a moment. But we're talking now about the consonants B, R, and K in Baraka. Everything else is a vowel. Baraka. And if you say Barakat, although T is a consonant, it's not a part of the original root word that forms Barakat. The T is just a feminine ending, letting you know that whatever you're talking about can be influenced by outside agents in the same way that a female can be influenced by outside sperm. You know, I know it's early in the morning, but I have to put it to you like it is. That's what the ta marbuta, the feminine T, the feminine tie is. It represents words that have feminine essence in the sense that other things can come from outside of that word and influence the development and the trajectory of that word. So I'm trying to give someone a barakat. Somebody else might come in and say, why are you trying to get that nigga something? He ain't never did nothing for you. See, somebody just influenced my judgment in terms of giving that barakat, because a barakat is a feminine entity. See, so you got to be very careful to secure and protect all things feminine. Keep that in mind. So the letter B represents the belly, and the belly is something that empties up, that empties out, that refills, and then it empties out again. And it does that over and over again. The belly does that. So in Arabic, the word ba, the letter ba, is actually the word bait, which means house. And what does a house do? A house fills up with family members. Those family members grow up, they go out, they leave, they get married. Some of them dies. Many things happen to family members in a single house. And when that happens, sometimes new humans are born into the family as babies. Sometimes people adopt children and bring them into the house. A whole new generation can take over that same house, because the house is designed to fill up, to empty out, and then to refill perpetually until the house is actually torn down. So the word bait means house only because the house operates on the same fitra pattern as the belly, that fills up, empties out, and refills. So the word for belly in Arabic begins with the bait letter, the B letter. That's butun, butun. Okay. Yeah. That word transferred over into the English language as button, because a button fills the hole, the buttonhole, and then it's released at the end of the day. The next day you put the shirt back on, the button fills that hole again. And at the end of the day, or when you're choosing to change shirts, you unbutton the shirt and you remove it from that particular hole. It's performing the same exact task as what the belly does. And all B words, words that begin with the letter B, that's what they do. In fact, the English letter B, if you really want to look at it here in Mubarak, you can see that it's actually a caricature of a human being's profile, a woman's profile, actually. And the top part of the B is her breasts, and the bottom part of the B is her pregnant belly. See what happens during pregnancy? The woman becomes inseminated by the male sperm or the male germ. It grows in her. It fills her belly. When she delivers, her belly is empty again. Can she become pregnant again? Yes. So her belly is following the same fitra-based process as the belly when it eats food. It empties out, it refills, etc. The pregnancy, she empties out, she delivers, but she can be refilled also. See, so all of these B words carry the same denotations in terms of their meanings. This is a very important factor to figure into your understanding of Quranic logic, because the Quran was revealed, as Imam W.D. Muhammad once said, not only as a set of words to be listened to or remembered, but Imam Muhammad said that the very sounds of the words are also revelation. How the letters sound. These are his words. He said how the words and the letters sound, the phonemes, how they sound, how they're pronounced in the mouth. He said all of these things are revelation. And that's what really prompted me to go deeper into the reservoir of understanding letters in Arabic, because I discovered that these letters are connected directly to Allah's fitrah. That means nature. If you don't know what the fitrah is, it represents what science might call Mother Nature. Every letter in the Arabic letter system is found in the fitrah of nature, beginning with the fitrah of your own body and how Allah constructed your body. So the first letter, most of you know, is the letter Aleph. And Aleph, if you look at it, it's just a straight up and down line, but it is actually a cartoon type depiction of the spine that is occupying your back right now, your spine. And without your spine, you could not stand upright. In fact, without your spine, you couldn't live, period. So the spine is responsible for several things in the human body. It's responsible for your ability to stand upright, to move forward. You can bend over temporarily, tie your shoes or whatever you're going to do bending over, but that's not your default setting when it comes to what your spine does. Your default setting is to stand upright. Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, that certainly Allah has created the human being in the most excellent organizational design. This body is an organizational design created, instituted, and programmed by Allah. That's what khalaq means. Khalaqna al-insan. Khalaq, and not only means to create a thing, it means that Allah has also instituted sets of programs within that created thing, just like your computer. If you're a computer programmer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You could not operate that computer. I don't care how pretty the computer itself is. Like, we don't care how pretty you are. If you're not operating right, then you're going to have a problem. And others are going to have a problem with you in the same way that they're going to have a problem with that faulty computer. You have to make sure that the programs have been installed correctly to do what the master programmer designed for them to do. It's the same thing with this human life. So where do we go to find out how to master this human life based on the master scheme of the master planner that we call Allah? Where do we go for that? We go to the Quran and its hudan, guidance that it provides for human beings, not just for Muslims, but for human beings. Let's continue. So B, as you know, represents that which fills and empties. The R connected to that represents movement and energy. So you're carrying over what you've been blessed with yourself, what's been filling your life. You do your best to move those goods, as they would say in the fields of merchandise and selling. You have to move your goods. You can't just let stuff pile up and not sell them. You have to sell them or give them away. Some will spoil, some will become outdated. So we have to always have the mind when we receive things that are good for us, that eventually we have to take those things that we're no longer using, or take those things that we still want to use, but we know others need it more than we do, and move that energy. That's what the Ra is doing. It's energy. And where's it going? It's going to the Kaf, the K, Barakah. See, the Kaf represents the palm of your hand. So barakat is the BR, or the bringing from one place to another of that which is in the palm of your hands and then releasing it. See, it's so beautiful when you understand it. Yeah, that's what barakah means. And when you learn our system called Nunetics, which is the understanding of every fitrah-based Arabic letter and how it already represents a word. When you put 2 and 3 of those letters together, you have more than just a root word. You actually have a sentence, as in the case that I just detailed for you. Okay? Barakat is simply the carrying over of that which was in the palm of your hand. That's what makes it a blessing. Now, the word Ramadan means burning heat. Burning heat. And it alludes to the scorching heat of the sun upon the earth during the fall season. over in the various parts of the Middle East, especially in Arabia, that peninsula, during the fall season, it tends to be very, very uncomfortable in terms of the hotness of the temperature on most days during the fall until the fall rainy season appears. And people take joy in knowing that the rains are coming. They only come about once a year. And that's why people celebrate the rain over there, because the ground becomes so hot to the touch that the farmers have to actually wrap the feet of especially the younger animals, the tender feet of the younger animals, because if they do not do that, them walking on that parched earth, that scorched earth, is going to cause blisters and such to those tender feet of those younger animals. So out of mercy, they tend to wrap the feet in cloth or whatever they can get their hands on that will protect the animal's feet from that hot ground. So this is what Ramadan means. Now that tells you something very important that I'm not going to elaborate on today, but it tells you that Ramadan in its beginnings was a particular season of the year. It wasn't a every 2 weeks go backward and moonwalk kind of event. See, right now we do Ramadan, and then next year, 2 weeks earlier, we do Ramadan, and then after, because we're following a lunar cycle, we're following a lunar calendar, whereas the original calendar that people were following in the time of Muhammad the Prophet was not a lunar calendar. In fact, they followed the lunar solar, the lunar solar calendar. They followed both for different events, for different things that they were doing during the year. Sometimes they were following the moon cycle. Other times they were following the sun cycle. When a woman got pregnant, they were following the moon cycle. We still do. We call it menstrual. Men is from the word moon, menstrual. It means the strolling of the moon, how the moon does what it does when it strolls and becomes a crescent in the beginning, becomes a half moon, then a quarter moon, then a half moon, and then goes on to become a full moon, and then dissipates in the other direction. That's the moon's strolling, the menstrual processing of the moon. And that's where we get that word for a woman and her courses, as they call it, or her period, as they call it. So these things, again, happened during a particular season. Now, how and why it changed is a subject for you to investigate. I've already investigated it, and I've come across and concluded on certain things for my own self. You have to do the same. But at the same time, you should take solace, soul ace, in the fact that Ramadan, most people won't know this, but Ramadan is actually something that can be practiced at any time of the year. Oh, instructor Benjamin Bilal, he's starting trouble already. Yeah, Ramadan can be practiced at any time of the year voluntarily by just about anybody who wants to benefit from that level of discipline. Let's continue to go. And if you have any questions for me, I won't be able to answer them directly on this live Facebook chat, but I'll leave you my email address. William Safir, please remind me to do that before we conclude. And you can email me with any questions or concerns or challenges, if you will, to what I'm saying. If you don't understand it, or you don't believe it, or you don't accept it, so be it. I'd like to hear from you. Moving on. So this heat was so intense that it would absorb most of the moisture out of the soil in those regions of the world. That's how intense this heat was. It would absorb all of the water, all of the moisture content from the land until the land itself became parched. And if you've ever seen parched land that used to be agricultural land, and you look at your skin as dry skin under a microscope, they're going to look exactly the same. Because when your skin, your topical layer of skin loses its moisture, Allah caused it to resemble exactly what you see in the parched lands that have lost their moisture. And obviously the land, when it loses its moisture, is also losing the ability to produce produce, vegetation, vegetables and fruits, trees, bushes. It can't produce that if there's no water content in the soil. So Ramadan represented an effort on the part of the burning sun to deplete the earth of its nutrition. So you have the word soil and soul. So we're talking about understanding differences in this class. 8 sessions of this. Imagine. Bring your notebooks next time if you didn't do it this time. The words soil, S-O-I-L, and soul, S-O-U-L, are related, obviously. They almost sound exactly alike. And that's because when you find words that sound alike or that contain the same consonants, you're going to find a related meaning. Not always the same meaning, but a related meaning, or a related, what I like to call an underlying theme, running through all of the words that carry this SL consonantal connection, as the words soil and soul do. Now, I can do a thesis on SL words in the English and Arabic language, and they're going to all mean the same thing. In fact, I'm going to put here what it actually means. When you find S and L combined, it represents the preservation of a thing's integrity. The preservation of a thing's integrity. Integrity simply means the way a thing is held together in order to maintain its wholeness, its unity. That's integrated. It has integrity. This human body has integrity. Allah designed it to hold itself together. The arm is not trying to run off and do its thing, and a left leg trying to run out and do something different. No, all of it is controlled by a command center called the human mind. And it's the mind that is actually keeping all of these parts cooperating with each other so that the entire body might get the assistance that Allah intended for it. If my foot started doing something different than what my brain has been commanding, they call that a problem in medicine. In science, in psychology, they say that's a problem. If my leg just starts kicking out for no reason, I'm walking down the street and I pass a senior citizen, a woman, and my leg just all of a sudden kicks her in her leg, that's a problem that could send you to prison. And if she falls and hurts herself or maybe even dies, now you got a major problem because you couldn't control your leg. See, people have major problems like that because they can't control their sexual passions, their sex organs. They can't control, they let the little head, as they say, control the big head. And when men do that, they find themselves in equal trouble as to the person who for no reason just kicks out at another person because they couldn't control their leg. Okay? When you can't control your words, you cussing and fussing at anybody who comes by, you're on the bus, your little 14-year-old self, and you mother uffing and bitching and all of that on the bus with grandma. Doesn't have to be your grandma, but somebody's grandma sitting there looking at you, hoping you shut the hell up, excuse the expression. Because you're not controlling your words. You're not controlling your emotions even. Mad at people for no reason. Next Ramadan comes around, you're still mad at the same person. And you haven't even seen them in 365 days. What's that about? You not being able to control your emotions, your passions, your urges. This is what Ramadan represents, the disciplining, the corralling of all of those essential pieces of the puzzle that Allah installed in you as programming. And Ramadan is designed to push the reset button on that programming so that the programming goes back to, as they say in computer language, the default setting. It'll take out all of those programs that were introduced by you. You kept pushing buttons. Yeah, download, download, download. That's how we do our lives. We just keep downloading junk, download. And before you know it, your computer can't take it. It's excessive. It's too much. And the computer guy at the store says that you're going to have to clean your computer. Well, that's what Ramadan is saying to you through the Quran and Allah's wisdom. Human being, you have to clean your computer, meaning your human life. It operates exactly like computers operate, and it needs to be programmed correctly. So water and emotions, or morals also, are related. Imam Muhammad dropped this wisdom on us in 1975. He said that water is a symbol of human emotion because human emotions are also designed by Allah to keep your life clean. emotions. When you have a good cry, you feel better. You feel refreshed after a good cry. Oh, I've been holding that cry in for 3 days. But boy, I feel better now. See, because water, the nature of water, the way Allah clocked water to behave is responsible for you feeling refreshed when you cry, or sometimes after you get off the basketball court and you're all sweaty. But there's a feeling there like, man, my muscles are aching, but I feel good behind that workout, right? I'm in the gym and all, you going home and you got the towel around your neck and you're tired and sore, but you feel good. Why? Because you exuded water. You let water loose on the body. And of course, when you get home from the gym and you take that shower and you know what that water does to your body, see? So Allah clocked that nature into water to push the refresh button on your nature itself. And of course, when you engage in moral thinking, proper decision-making, that's what we mean, decision-making that is based in decency, not politics. We're not talking about the moral majority concept like that. They've taken that word moral, and many others have taken that word moral, and they've streamlined it to represent their narrow viewpoints on things. So the Ku Klux Klan believes they have a moral viewpoint. They believe that they are morally correct in treating people outside of so-called white people the way they treat them. They believe it's okay. God sanctioned this for us. You don't believe it? Ask God. And you go to ask the God they're talking about. He's sitting up on a cross looking exactly like the ones who told you to go ask him. The only difference between that image and the ones who told you to go ask him is that they are wearing cone-shaped hats and he's not. But they both represent white supremacy. A story for another day. Maybe before the 8 sessions are out, we'll talk about the origins of white supremacy. Imam Muhammad touched on that countless times in his career, beginning in 1975, when he spoke about the origins of Aryan white supremacy. What a topic he opened up. And I haven't heard a single imam open it up since he said that, except for yours truly. I'm not bragging on myself, and I'm not saying they haven't. I'm saying I haven't heard it. But we need to revisit that information. The origins of Aryan white supremacy. Who are these Aryans? Did you ever stop to ask yourself that question when you read that article from Imam Muhammad, or when you heard him say it at Masjid number 2 in Chicago? In 1975, he told us that. Has any one of us said, let me really dig into what he's talking about? Because he didn't pin white supremacy on the Ku Klux Klan or the White Citizens Council of America. He pinned it on India. The same racism that developed their caste system 5,000 years ago, that is still standing today. Isn't that something? A system of artificial intelligence. You think today is artificial intelligence through AI? No, artificial intelligence is any time a human being's mind comes up with something that goes against Allah's fitrah. That's artificial. That's not how Allah intended for your intelligence to operate. Let's continue. So, when the soil becomes depleted of moisture, no growth will occur. Likewise, when the soul becomes depleted of proper sensitivities and moral thinking, the human life will cease to grow and prosper. So one is the soil, but Allah allows the soil to operate on the same fitrah pattern and platform as the soul. So when you think soul, think about the properties of the soil. When you think soil, think about the properties of the soul. If you know that if moisture is depleted in the soil, that you can't plant a seed, you'll be wasting your seeds in dry soil. You have to give it moisture content is the point. And it's the same thing with the soul. Moisture content for the soul is what we call human sensitivity, human concerns, human apathy and empathy for people, compassion for people. That's the water content for the soul. When you provide that for yourself through contemplation on what Allah has provided for you, and you get misty sometimes thinking about how glorious Allah is and how wonderful he has been to you in this one lifetime, not to mention the life to come, inshallah. When you start thinking about it, it makes you tear up sometimes. So make sure that your soul remains moisturized. Imam Muhammad, before he left, he spoke about the day of the great elimination of the human soul. And he said it's going to be soon. And my understanding is that it happened not long after he passed. And it ain't over yet. And what you're seeing in the world as the so-called Great Reset and whatever plans they have for depopulating planet Earth, as was outlined by Mr. Bill Gates on a TED Talks from 2015, he said that we have to eliminate a certain portion of the world, beginning in the poorer countries of the world, because they're bringing in too many babies who are just starving to death in Africa and in some parts of India and in some parts of Asia, other parts of Asia. Depopulation Plan, outlined by Henry Kissinger in 1976. The Freedom of Information Act allowed that to become public information, 1977, I believe. So be aware of the plan to demoisturize your soul and thereby eliminate your soul. Without the soul, you're just this physical carcass, really. You're just, you're no better than a dead body without a soul. If you're soulless, not good. Now, the Arabic word Ramadan is from the Sanskrit word Rama, R-A-M-A, and Rama was a sun god. Rama was a sun god in ancient India. Ra was a sun god also in ancient Egypt. You know him as Amun-Ra, Amun-Ra, a sun god from ancient Egypt. And here is how the word Ramadan, and I'm exaggerating the consonants by capitalizing them. The A-N on the N is a suffix. It's not a part of the root word. It's from the word Ramida, Ramida. And the word Ramadan breaks down consonantally in Arabic, letter for letter. Thus, the Ra syllable represents the sun. And in the human life, it represents the human intellect that does for you what the sun does for the environment. It lights the way. It shows you detailed objects or details in objects. The sun does it. The moon doesn't do that. The sun shows you those details in the cracks, in the crevices, and you can go into the caves and go in there with a flashlight. As long as you have a light, you're going to be able to learn something there, to benefit from what's there, etc. Because the sun out here is also in you. Allah says that he created instructing signs called ayat in the skies. He created instructing signs in the earth, and he created similar signs in us. This is what the Quran says. But it also says right behind that, that most people go on paying it no mind whatsoever. They go on la-di-da-di-da as though these things are not trying to give them instruction. And Allah says that he is the one who is teaching all of us. So if Allah is teaching all of us, the only reason we're not advancing is because we keep cutting class. Right, William Safir? We just keep cutting. Allah has the classroom doors wide open. Matter of fact, he removed the hinges to the doors. It's just wide open for you to come into. All you got to do is wake up in your five senses and you're in the classroom. Imam Muhammad said that if you're not conscious of the fitrah, you can't benefit from the fitrah. Huh? Translated into English, if you're not conscious of what nature is doing and providing, you can't benefit from what nature is doing. Except for aesthetically, meaning the beauty around you. You can say, oh, what a beautiful sunrise. Oh, this breeze feels so nice and warm. You can do that, but guess what? A chipmunk can do that. Your dog does that. Your dog appreciates a good breeze, a good smell in the air. Even if he's sniffing another dog, he appreciates that. All right? So those aesthetic things, that doesn't make you truly human. It's when you're able to take those aesthetic things and then translate them into higher meanings for the intellect. Higher meanings for the intellect. That's the beautiful thing we're talking about and discussing now. So Ra is the sun, represented by the intellect. Meme is the moon and represents the emotionality. So in ancient India, when they used the term Rama to represent their particular god, they were talking about a god who represented symbolically, not actual factually, symbolically represented the forces that were inherent in the sun and its electric charge that it discharges through the universe, and also the meme or the moon and its magnetic pull that it allows to affect the universe, especially the earth with its tides. When that moon is out and strong and full, man, the tides on earth go cuckoo. That's why they call a crazy cuckoo person a lunatic. It's from the word lunar, meaning the influence of the moon on that person's emotionality, on their water. See, your water is your emotionality. Your water is your moral choice making. And sometimes the atmosphere can become so magnetic, trying to pull you in this direction, that direction, or the third direction, that you just lose it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know who to trust anymore. That's your moral compass going haywire. So Ramadan is designed to bring that moral compass back into your own hands as you learn how to discipline it. Let's continue. The letter Dad in Ramadan represents the earth, but the scorched earth, meaning the distorted instincts. So look at what you're dealing with in the human life. Three major things: the intellect, the emotionality, and the instincts that have been distorted or corrupted. Your instincts can become corrupted. How do we know? Because your instincts tell you to eat and drink. Yeah, it's your instincts. When you're born, as soon as you're born, the baby knows, it's clocked into the genetics of the infant that I'm hungry. I need to feed. I need to be fed, right? The infant knows that, but Allah created a particular level of balance in the intellect, the developing intellect of the intellect within the instinctive nature that says enough is enough. See, once it gets full, it doesn't keep sucking on the mother's breast or on the bottle, the milk bottle. Once a baby is through, it can't talk, it can't walk. If it can lift its arms up, it'll stop you from it. If it can't lift its arms up yet because it's newborn, it'll just close its lips. You've seen babies, you've experienced it with your babies, I'm sure. Baby would just close her lips and won't let you put that nipple in the mouth anymore. That's because every infant is born upon the fitrah. You've heard that hadith, haven't you? Every infant is born ala al-fitrah, upon the fitrah. And it's the environment, according to this particular hadith, that makes it something else other than what the fitrah produced. Ramadan is designed to bring you back to your fitrah foundation by resetting all of the necessary components that comprise your human life. The intellect, what you learn, your emotionality, how you begin to feel about the things you're learning, and your corrupted instincts, bringing them back by disciplining them. And if your instincts were not capable of being undisciplined, there would be no heavyweight, overweight people. None. That happens because your instincts have been appealed to by the social and media manipulators of the world. And they encourage you to eat for no reason, even after you're full. They encourage that. They encourage you to eat all of the wrong things that are not fitrah-based foods. So Ramadan, again, is designed to bring you back to your fitrah foundation. When you break your fast at iftar, listen to the word iftar. You know what that's from? Fatara. You know what other word comes from there? Fitrah. So how are you eating iftar and you eating cookies and candy and bologna sandwiches, the meat of which has been sitting on the shelf of the supermarket for the last 2 months? They hit that cow in the head 2 months ago, and it's refrigerated in the supermarket so that a month later, 2 months later, you'll still think it's fresh. Look at the expiration date. It'll be sometime in the next 2 months after the 2 months that it was sitting there. Is that fitrah-based food? And if it's not, and that's what you're eating, bologna sandwiches and all this stuff that you can't even read the ingredients on most of these things that you're buying in the supermarket. See? So if you're eating stuff that's not what Allah created or what He made, you're not having a real iftar, not according to the strict definition of that word. Related to fitrah, it has to be fitrah-based food. You drinking soda and all of these other drinks, sweet drinks and all of that, you're violating the iftar. I know I'm busting the bubble of a lot of people out there for their iftar. I'm sorry you had to hear this early in the month. But I'm here to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me Allah that I do that. That's my mission. That's my job. That's my responsibility. So that's Ramadan. We have about a good 10 minutes left. We're going to make good use of that. So what are we talking about when we're discussing the instincts? Instincts gravitate toward pleasure. The reason you eat is because you want to please these cells in your body. They are the ones that are calling for food. It's not even your blood, as Imam Muhammad said. He said, what's calling for the food in you You said it's your cells. Actually, he did say your blood, but your blood is your cells. It's comprised of your cells, your red blood cells. He said it's not your stomach. That's what he said. He said it's not even your eyes. Your eyes see the food and go, wow, what that would taste like. Oh, taste? Okay, then my tongue must be calling for it. He said it's not your tongue. Go a little further. He said, oh, the food goes down your throat. It must be my throat that's calling for the food. He said, no, it's not your throat. Oh, well, then it has to be my belly. That's where it ends up. No, that's not where it ends up. It ends up as nutrition in your blood. Isn't that beautiful? Nutrition in your, so he said the blood was calling. Oh, this is so beautiful. When you understand that, he also said that blood is symbolic of the social life and the social nature, how the blood likes to distribute nutrients to every necessary part of the body, including your pinky toe. Now, yeah, it services your brain and the bigger organs, your heart and lungs and spleen and all of that. But he said it also goes way down and services the smallest or most minute part of the body, which if it's not serviced, you're going to recognize it because you're going to get arthritis. You're going to get pain in those areas that the blood is not circulating in. So he said these blood represents the nature of how social life is activated and engaged. Such a beautiful description. Blood and social life, city life, city life. The word city comes from the word site, C-Y-T-E. Write these things down, C-Y-T-E. What do you call these cells that you're calling cells? They're called sites. The white blood cells are called leukocytes, C-Y-C-T-Y. No, pardon me, C-Y-T-E-S. But from the word site that I just gave you, that means cell, is where they developed the word city. And what is city? City is a social construct. You beginning to see the logic in this? It's a social construct. A city. In the Quran, one of the words for city is balad. وَهَذَا بَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. And this city or this town made secure, made amin. Amin means secure. It doesn't mean to say it at the end of Al-Fatiha. That's not what you're saying at the end of Al-Fatiha. At the end of Al-Fatiha, you're simply reproducing the same word with the same emphasis that the ancient Egyptians used when they said Amun Ra. That's the same thing that they're saying. We're paying homage to the sun god. Well, that's what you're doing every time you recite Ameen at the end of Al-Fatiha, because it's not in the Quran. And there's no proof that Muhammad the Prophet instituted that. Another one of those wayward, wild idea hadiths that they slipped in on you by telling you an angel introduced it into the congregation. Beware those hadiths that keep talking about an angel said, or an angel did this, angel told us to do that, and Allah didn't say to do it in the Quran. Be careful of those hadiths. They were really just manipulating the brains of dumbed down populations of Muslims in history by introducing those things. They say, yeah, these people want to be pure monotheists. I tell you what, we're going to introduce gradually and incrementally concepts and language back into their language after the prophet dies. We're going to start introducing all of these things from these ancient pagan societies, so that although they think they're worshiping the one God, they're actually going to be worshiping paganism, pantheism. Yeah, there'll be your Allah, but there'll be a bunch of gods under Allah that work for him. That's what the ancient Arabs were believing before Muhammad came. When Muhammad was born, that's what the Arabs were believing, that there was this God called Allah. That's not a new word. The prophet's father was called Abdullah, servant of Allah. So the word Allah was in vogue before he was born. Now, which Allah are you worshiping? That's going to be the subject of tomorrow's discussion. Are you worshiping Allah? Or are you worshiping what they called Allah? Now, you might not understand the difference right away, but boy, oh boy, if you don't get your front row seat for tomorrow's discussion at 10 a.m., now that we know the technology, William, we're going to be able to start on time this time, right? So have your seats and your belt buckles, or whatever you call that, your harness, whatever you're going to use to keep yourself strapped in your seat, because what I have to say to you tomorrow about the differences between the word God, G-O-D, that they've introduced into the lexicon of religion, the word Allah, spelt with only one A as a vowel, A-L-L-A-H, and Allah, as most of us are pronouncing it, A-L-L-A-A-H, sometimes A-A-A-A-H, if you include the adhan. Allah. How many A's are in that? Is that in the Quran? Nowhere to be found. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So let's wind down here. I want to thank you by just concluding here that instincts gravitate toward pleasure, as I said, and they scurry away from pain. So the instincts are designed for fight or flight. It's going to fight if it thinks it can win. It's going to flee if it thinks it's in danger and won't be able to win the battle. So when it sees a thing that represents pleasure, it's going to invite it in because it knows there's going to be no necessary fighting there. When Allah speaks about fighting in the Quran, you think he's talking about the Battle of Badr. No, there's a Battle of Badr taking place right here. And that's what Allah is addressing, mostly using the template of history. Just using templates of people and places and situations that happened in history. But the Quran is not a history book. I keep trying to tell y'all that. The Quran has nothing to do with history. The Quran is speaking more to the future of human life than it is to the past or any situations that happened back there. That's where Allah. Your email address. Yes, thank you. I'm going to put it right here at the bottom. All right. So those of you who want to stay in touch or who want to join our weekly class called University Online Learning Course, you can email me at this address. It is Cosmic Quran 1 at gmail.com. Should be all lowercase. Cosmic Quran 1 at gmail.com. And I'll give you all of the info you need. And if you don't have the link for, well, you should have the link for tomorrow. The way you got in today is the way you get in for the next 7 sessions. Okay. So understand that the instincts are what are keeping you gravitating toward pleasure. And we talk about eating and drinking and sex is pleasure. That's Ramadan. And it is also your instincts that say this thing is not going to be pleasurable. Let's get away from this. All right. So that word for pleasure, as I said, in Arabic is radi. That's where the word ard comes from also, the word for earth, because earth contains your pleasures. Allah said, into the earth for a time, get ye down from here into the earth, meaning what? Into your pleasures, into worlds of pleasure. Human beings just like to kick up and lay back, get off from a hard day's work, you go home, you shower or whatever, you sit back, you kick your feet up. You love that. You're retrofitted for that. That's how Allah retrofitted the human life. And the earth in the Quran is symbolic of our material appetites and our heart's pleasures. Heart, as you know, is an anagram of the word earth. So with that said, email me and I'll tell you how to be a part of this experience. And you can be experiencing this once and twice and 3 times a week by joining the course. And we'll give you details on that next time. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to continue a little bit of this conversation on my personal Zoom site or website. So those who are joining from my Zoom channel, don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss what I have to tell you. But as far as the Masjidullah crowd or group, I have to bid you goodbye so that others can come in and share their gems of wisdom with you also. So thank you very much for being with us as we greet you in the greetings of peace and progress and the greetings of wholeness and completeness. Salamun alaikum. Thank you.